In the deep forest of the north, every breath that falls onto the snow turns to vapor and vanishes, but he could wait for hours without even breathing, at minus 40 degrees alone. And with a single bullet, he changed the fate of hundreds of soldiers. He was the deadliest sniper history has seen. His name was Simo Häyhä, but the world remembered him by only one name: White Death. So what made him so special? How does a person turn silence into a deadly weapon? The year was 1939. The Soviet Union sent tens of thousands of soldiers into the northern snowstorms to invade small Finland. But there was something they didn't know. In these lands, there was another enemy just as deadly as the cold. The Winter War was one of the harshest battles in history. Soviet troops advancing through the forests would vanish into the silent hills covered in white snow. The Finnish soldiers were few, their weapons limited, but they knew nature, silence, and patience like no one else. And among them, one man quickly became a legend. In November 1939, the Soviet Union invaded their much smaller neighbor Finland. It marked the start of the so-called Winter War. This war, lasting for just a little over 3 months, saw many heroic Finnish soldiers stand up against the better equipped and much larger Red Army behemoth. One of those soldiers that truly distinguished himself was the sniper Simo Häyhä. In merely 98 days, he managed to kill 542 Red Army soldiers, a staggering number. It didn't just propel him among history's most successful snipers, no. In just 98 days, Simo Häyhä managed to shatter any sniper victory score, a record that has not been matched by anyone before or since. And what is more, Simo managed to achieve this using no other equipment than any ordinary Finnish soldier had at his disposal, including a rudimentary iron sight instead of scope on his rifle. Early life Simo was born on December 17, 1905, in the small municipality of Rautjärvi, southeastern Finland. Nowadays, close to half the territory of his place of birth is Russian territory, signaling the significant geopolitical changes that would take place during Simo's life. Simo was the seventh of 8 children in a family that ran a modern agricultural business on a substantial piece of land. Tragically, 2 of his brothers passed away in their youth, leaving Simo with just 2 brothers and 3 sisters. Despite the hardships, his childhood was one of hard work on the farm, balanced with his education. Though Simo stood only 5 feet 3 inches, a modest height for a man, what he lacked in stature he more than made up for in physical strength and resilience. He wasn't academically inclined, but he possessed a sharp, practical mind. Outside of his farm duties, Simo spent his spare time hunting, skiing the snow-covered mountains near his family's home, and simply immersing himself in the raw beauty of nature. During his teenage years, Finland was undergoing a period of intense political turmoil. Until 1917, Finland had been a grand duchy under the Russian Empire, but with the collapse of the Romanov dynasty and the subsequent Russian revolutions, the stability of the Finnish state was thrown into question. Left-wing movements, inspired by the chaos in Russia, began to push for radical changes. Without delving too deeply into the politics of the time, it's important to note that Finland was torn apart by civil war. From January to May 1918, the country was ravaged by brutal conflict between the Finnish whites, liberals and conservatives, and the Finnish Reds, backed by the Russian Soviets. It was a bloody 3-month struggle that would leave deep scars on the nation. To make a long story short, the Finnish White Army, under the command of Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim, emerged victorious in the Civil War in 1922. At the age of 17, Simo joined the local Finnish Civil Guard. He had completed middle school and had plans to eventually take over his father's farm when he grew too old to manage it. It was in the Civil Guard that Simo's exceptional talent for marksmanship was first discovered. He quickly proved to be a natural, honing his skills with the Mosin Nagant M 1891, a Russian-built, 5-shot, bolt-action rifle. And he was incredibly skilled. Finnish militias distributed these Russian rifles and ammunition free of charge to their members, and Simo made full use of the opportunity to perfect his craft. From December 1925 to March 1927, he completed his mandatory military service, finishing his time at the rank of corporal. But even after his service was over, Simo continued to participate in numerous marksmanship competitions. Throughout the 1930s, he claimed multiple awards and medals, with stories circulating that Simo once shot 16 targets per minute at a distance of 150 meters, all while reloading his Mosin Nagant, which could only hold 5 rounds at a time. a truly awe-inspiring feat that only heightened his reputation. The Finnish Civil Guard's favored weapon in shooting competitions was the Seiko M, 28-30, an improved Finnish version of the Mosin Nagant. In 1937, 440 of these rifles were manufactured specifically for the World Shooting Championships in Helsinki, where Finland dominated the medal count. The M28-30's barrel was heavier than its Soviet counterpart, and according to gun enthusiasts, the Finnish models 28 and 39 were considered the pinnacle of Mosin Nagants. When he wasn't competing, Simo spent most of his time working on the farm or hunting in the wilderness with his dog, Kila. His farmhouse was filled with trophies from hunting expeditions and marksmanship competitions, a testament to his skill and passion. As tensions escalated across Europe and between Finland and the Soviet Union, the Finnish government placed an increased emphasis on military service. They knew well the threat that loomed just across the border. In the summer of 1938, Simo received specialized sniper training at the Udi Training Center of the Finnish Army. This was the first time he received official military sniper instruction, and it didn't take long for his superiors to recognize his natural talent and exceptional skill as a sharpshooter. It's clear that years of hunting and competing in shooting tournaments had already honed his abilities. But coupled with his innate talent, Simo quickly became proficient with any firearm, no matter the climate. Even the basic rifles used by the Finnish army during the 1930s seemed to bend to his will. The sniper training could not have come at a more crucial time. Thanks to it, Simo played a key role in delivering devastating losses to the Soviet Red Army during the Winter War. In November 1939, following a false flag attack, the Soviet Union invaded Finland. Simo, now a 34-year-old corporal, was called to the front lines. His reputation as a skilled marksman, forged through years of experience in the Civil Guard, led to his deployment as a sniper. Before diving into his combat exploits, it's important to understand the equipment and tactics that made him so formidable. Simo's weapon of choice was the trusty Seiko M 28-30, a rifle that quickly earned a reputation among Finnish soldiers. According to the Mosin Nagant website, one of the key improvements to the M28-30 was its rear sight design, which allowed marksmen to quickly acquire targets and fire more accurately. The rifle performed reliably in the extreme cold of the Finnish winter. With a stock made from Arctic birchwood that withstood the freezing temperatures, the gun rarely jammed, even under the harshest conditions. At the start of the Winter War, scopes were a rare commodity. In fact, if Finnish soldiers did manage to acquire telescopic sights at all, they were often looted from fallen Soviet soldiers. But Simo, despite the opportunity to use a scope, preferred to rely on an iron sight. He had his reasons. First, he believed that the glare of sunlight could reflect off the lens of a scope, giving away his position. But more importantly, he felt that a simple open-sighted rifle was better suited to his small, 5-foot 3-inch frame. An iron sight also had the advantage of not requiring him to raise his head slightly to aim, a small but significant detail. In the world of sniping, where even the slightest movement can reveal your presence, this approach made perfect sense. There were other practical reasons for Simo's preference. Scopes, for example, could easily fog up in the freezing cold, which was the last thing a sniper wanted at a critical moment. The simplicity of the iron sight meant fewer things could go wrong. But it wasn't just the rifle that made Simo so effective. It was his ability to blend into his environment. His Finnish camouflage suit, lined with fur to protect against the biting cold, made him nearly invisible against the snow-covered landscape. When he was in position, he would even place snow in his mouth, ensuring that his breath wouldn't give away his location. And then, there was the brutal cold. Finnish winters could plunge to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and lying motionless for hours in that kind of cold wasn't easy. But Simo was unfazed. He had mastered the art of camouflage in the harsh, snowy mountains and woodlands, making him one with the landscape. The Karelian Isthmus, where he was deployed, was a 70-mile stretch of rugged terrain with few roads, many hills, and dense forests. perfect conditions for a sniper like Simo, who knew how to use nature to his advantage. According to his biographer, Tapio Saarelainen, in his book The White Death, Simo's success as a sniper can be attributed to several key factors. Simo Häyhä was the best sniper who ever lived because he understood everything going on around him. He was a skilled trekker and hunter who knew exactly how to stay hidden. His gun, too, was one he had used for years, and he knew exactly how it would behave in any given environment. His personality was ideally suited to sniping. His ability to be alone and his capacity to avoid the emotional weight that would overwhelm many others in such a role. Simo's tactics were as methodical as they were effective. Often he would take provisions for several days and venture alone into the wilderness. He would carefully select strategic points, dig in, and wait, sometimes for hours on end, often buried in the freezing Finnish winter, hidden among the snow. One of his most ingenious tricks involved pouring water over the snow where he rested his rifle. When it froze, it left no loose snow to give away his position when he took a shot. When a Soviet patrol or infantry unit passed by, they were sitting ducks for the patient, skilled marksmen. The snow-covered landscape became Simo's personal hunting ground, where he waited in silence, blending with the unforgiving terrain. Over the next 98 days, Simo managed to kill 542 Red Army soldiers. That's an average of more than 5 soldiers a day. A staggering feat considering the limited daylight hours during the harsh Finnish winters. His reputation spread quickly, and the Soviets, in awe of his relentless effectiveness, dubbed him the White Death. His Finnish comrades, equally impressed, referred to him as the magic shooter. Simo initially served in the 6th Company of the 34th Infantry Regiment, 34 Jalkaväkirikmenti, where he would become a living legend on the battlefield. Simo Häyhä participated in one of the most iconic battles of the Winter War, the defense of the Kola River. A much smaller Finnish force, vastly outnumbered, held off 4 Soviet divisions for months. The odds were stacked against them, but the Finns had several advantages. One of the most significant was the fact that Soviet soldiers didn't wear camouflage, making them easy targets for the skilled Finnish marksmen. During the war, Simo's contributions were recognized with the highest honors. He was awarded the Order of the Cross of Liberty, one of Finland's 3 official state orders, as well as the 3rd and 4th class Crosses of Liberty. In February, he was presented with a special Seiko M2830 rifle, engraved with his name, a personal tribute to his remarkable achievements. Lieutenant General Voldemar Hägglund commanded the Finnish forces, which faced the combined might of the Soviet 1st and 14th Armies. Writer Paul Feist describes the campaign as the miracle of Kola, noting that at one point just a few thousand Finns were holding their ground against over 160,000 Red Army soldiers. Feist writes about the infamous Battle of Killer Hill, where a mere 32 Finns managed to fend off 4,000 advancing Soviet troops. Although I haven't found solid evidence to confirm the Battle of Killer Hill, it's clear that the Finns gave the Soviets a run for their money, inflicting nearly 8 times the casualties they themselves sustained. Their tenacity and ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds became the stuff of legend. However, on March 6, 1940, just 1 week before the Winter War officially ended, Simo's luck took a tragic turn. A Soviet soldier managed to shoot Simo through the left jaw with an explosive bullet. Initially thought to be dead, Simo's body was left among the fallen, piled up with the other dead soldiers. His comrades were about to bury him when an attentive soldier noticed Simo's twitching body and dragged him out of the pile of corpses, narrowly saving his life. Simo was unconscious for several days, and the bullet had torn apart half of his face. In a near-poetic twist of fate, he awoke from his coma 1 week later, on the very day the Winter War came to a close. As a testament to Finnish perseverance, the Kola River region remained in Finnish hands against all odds. Yet, despite their victory, the Finns were forced to cede nearly 10% of their land to the Soviet Union in the peace treaty.